And we are live, I believe. Warm welcome to you, Davante, too. Thank you so much. Nice to be greeted in such a warm-hearted way. And Shyam, awesome. I can see you're shooting away with the questions. Very interesting ones already, and of course you were the one who requested me to do one of these Shiva live streams a long time ago, and then now everything hopefully falls in place at the time it's supposed to. So now it's happening, and let's just see how many of you show up and what you want to say, and let me get rid of the echo right there. And I'm looking forward to it. I feel like there's a strong energy coming through of him today, and I think he'll just speak something on renewal too. So thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for your kind hearts and interesting questions, and for sharing, subbing, commenting, watching, asking, and of course donating, which also means a lot to me. So good to be with you, and hope you enjoy. I'll I'll see you in I'll see you in between the channeling. Yes, it is I, if such a thing can be spoken of, and no, it is not me. If by me you think of me as a thing or something that you can essentially grasp, I am beyond mind exactly because I am mind. I am beyond reality exactly because I am sublime reality. I am here with you exactly because you have chosen to turn your gazes towards this thing that I appear as. And so, using the honorific of Shiva, I come to you to be focused and interacted with this day. I exist throughout existence. Without existence, I couldn't be, and without me, existence couldn't be. I am the constant renewer. I am that thing which introduces interludes into existence. I am the unity of opposites. I am the principle that upholds everything in its sublime resting mind, and everything then is destroyed in my being, subsumed, created, and renewed. And I come to you this day, not only because you have summoned me, but because I have become more visible to the naked eye, you might say. The principle that I am one of my many manifestations is the dimension of time. And so you see this manure of creation, the time that destroys everything, that changes and uproots worlds, that eats its children. This time has become greatly accelerated. And with this great acceleration comes also new creation. This is the next step in the cycle that you are moving into. And so know that this renewing process, it is coming from beyond. It is being given birth to, much as birth is also a destruction of what has gone beforehand, of either the status of being single, of the transition from non-being to being, from the transition from person to parent, from the transition from woman to mother. There are many of these patterns that you can use to approach what is going on for you now. So much is being burst through you, and so much is being destroyed for you to build out of the rubble new buildings to stay in and to live in. There is no greater way to serve this creation than to abide in it. Nothing is demanded of you but to step out of the way. Nothing is demanded of you but to witness, witness, witness. Be still and witness as silence speaks your name and calls you forward to give new shapes their shapeliness and shape you while they do it. There is no escape of form. There is only the escape into being. Abide in that being, and you will see form passing before you as something wished for and intended by you. I hope this message reaches you with clarity and understanding. I offer you my also ever abiding love. There is great continuity here in everything that has gone before and everything that will proceed from this moment. Both presence and future, they mend together in your being, and I am only here to remind you of that. We are one, and you are one with everything. Excellent, guys. Let's take a crack at the questions, and so good to see so many of you here. And Shyam asks, "Hi, Mass, and greetings, Shiva. I have this question on avatars. In Hinduism, I hear that Shiva created the universe, and then, when there's times of distress, descends down through avatars to save them. This doesn't make sense to me, for it sounds like duality, God versus man, shepherd versus sheep, and also gives a sense of no free will. Please help me understand this concept, Shyam." Yes, and I will also proceed to answer the last question first, where you ask between the difference between Shiva consciousness and Christ consciousness, because within it there is also contained the answer of these other questions you pose. See, think of this as a type of emanation. That is, everything is in sublime reality made up of everything else. There is a place where things are not seen as disparate, and that place lies within my meditative awareness. But as soon as I stir from this rest, the entirety of creation is brought forward by me, and by that also the change within it to destroy it. And therefore, as consciousness begins to enter into what you might call the world, as I separate my being and put it into parts, this type of emanation becomes possible. To use the image of the mountain, and I believe the name of the mountain that you have connected to me is called Kailash, if I am not mistaken. But to use this image, unresting in ever rest, I sit in this unperturbed state of pure absorption. But out of this arises below influxes, small trickles and streams that begin to stir. And within these, there are remnants of my being, but they do not recall me, much as the difference that you know between your waking state and your dream states is that the dream state does not recall the waking state, whereas the waking state recalls the dream state. Therefore, you could think of the waking state as a higher expression of consciousness. And this is the same if you were to move into the idea or the worldview that has sometimes been described as idealism. That is, that everything is essentially an emanation of my mind. Then you would also know that you experience in your own mind types of crises that arise from a sense of disconnection. And it is within the wheel of time, within the yugas, when energy has sunk into the point of disconnection, there is a ray of hope bringing it back into connection with itself. There is a translation from the point of the one into the point of the many. And this bridge or this gapway is the avatar. And this is how you could think of Christ consciousness, because Christ is the avatar that leads into my being, but my being is sublime. You can approach me in many ways, and it is prudent of you to, were you to compare these two trinities, to then see me also as the specific, the thing that destroys exactly by engaging with the world. That is, Christ consciousness can also be thought of as pure consciousness that enters the world and essentially points to the sublime place without it, which is God the Father, and the sublime, or the Brahman, and the sublime currents within it, which is the Holy Ghost or Vishnu. But I prefer, as I appear to you this day, to reveal that whereas Christ was also fully man and therefore an interceder in human matters, I am a principle that exists without or within all creation, and around all creation, below all creation, and above all creation. And therefore, my restful wisdom, which contains everything, is something that is not as easily approached. It does not necessarily intercede with you, and it is not as merciful as this type of consciousness of which you speak. But I consider this an emanation of my being, and I hold in high regard those who seek me through Christ as those who seek the eternal through Shiva are also rewarded. We hope that this sheds light on your question. Know that there are essentially no dichotomies or ultimate differences of things that preclude each other. Instead, think of these as discrepancies, systems of tension that try to clear themselves out, and know that this is not a type of dualism, but rather the idea of emanation, the same idea that you have incorporated within your fractals, that there is a major pattern, a universal pattern that then emanates into smaller and smaller figures. And when these become too disconnected from the pattern, the great figure intercedes to remind you in a small but pure form of the totality of the whole. Blessings for this question and for the wisdom you seek. Yes, and Kevin, good you're with us. Says, hello, Mass Shiva. Thank you for this transmission today. I'm aware that timelines are quite volatile these days, but still wanted to get your perspective on a project business I'm starting. Do you see a favorite timeline in regards to creating my project on integrative fitness with a man named Frank who runs a tennis program in my local area of Highlands Ranch? I'll just comment that I really like the name. I think it's very approachable and explanatory at the same time, and then I'll let I'll let the gods answer. Yes, would be the short answer. But yes, there is success coming from this. And again, I wish to let you know that the criteria of success are, by my standards and also by the standards of the eternities within you, it is the expansion of consciousness and the integration into the symphony of matter, then when these two things coincide. And in this sense, I do sense a great and interesting challenge here, and notice that you have also undertaken a type of partnership. And being prone to symbolism, we also sense that the name Frank speaks of someone who is honest in his dealings with you. It can be worth paying attention to these types of signs, because there is a great confluence of energies that are coming forward. And you may experience, this is only to say that you will experience in, for a month or so, we sense approximately the period of 6 to 8 weeks, there will be a type of, you could say, integrative phase of the integrative training. So you will be a little challenged also by the reconfiguration of social codes that are happening in your human collectives as you begin to enter into new lessons surrounding what you have called the COVID pandemic. But also know that this integrative trading will be one of those offers that will bring people, let us say, out of their houses and together again. And then I also transmit from my offspring, my progeny of who brings great fortune to those who worship him, that I'm speaking, of course, of the elephant-headed god Ganesh, that we sense prosperity arising from this. And if you were to notice in the background, there sits a small chest surrounded by an idol of Ganesh and an idol of Lakshmi. This individual was convinced it was Vishnu until he realized that this was the two little petal-flowered goddess holding up her hands. And that is to say, you would do well to make a tiny prosperity altar. This has arisen somewhat spontaneously, but if you were to arrange a figure that you connect with bounty, with plenty, it can be whoever you want it to be. And then arrange for a little bowl of, we believe, and we don't know if the term is also potpourri in English, but the idea that you put flower petals into water and then they make for a perfumed arrangement. And then to do this occasionally, put forward a little bowl of, well, water infused with flower leaves before a figurine that embodies prosperity. And this would be a way for you to also focus in on the more material gains of this practice. But yes, we do sense, and I do sense, great opportunity here, and that I assure you that you are on the right path with this. Blessings in this endeavor. And Sophia asks, good to see you here. Dear Shiva, much love and blessing. Much love and blessing. I felt a cooling sensation on my third eye chakra last night. Would you able to tell me what was happening? Yes. We apologize for the interlude, but we are scanning the process as it took place and envisioning and receiving the communications. Know that the third eye is essentially the portal into multidimensionality, and therefore so much of what is happening to you as you move into the multidimensionally layered reality is that these centers are being cleared out for you. And so you could think of what was happening was that you may have experienced slight flushes or the sensation of blushing. We would almost use, not necessarily connected to embarrassment, but the idea of, well, the almost the hot flash, the idea that energy rises and generates heat. And so what has also been happening is that this heat has been rising to your third eye chakra, or the this gateway that sits here. And then this energy that has been transmitted, and much of it is subtle, well, it actually opened up the portal. And so you could say that in a sense you felt that energy that has been building up in you, opening into a type of vacuum is the wrong word, but we do believe that you understand what we mean when we say that the energy was concentrated and then opened up this portal. And when this portal becomes open, there is also a cooling. Note that often you also intuitively perceive that the mental realms has a quality of cold to them, much like the top of the mountain. There is a clarity to clear vision that goes a long way, that goes along well with the icy reflections of mind, this eternal hall of mirrors. And so some of your spirit guides are working on this, and we sense indeed there are dragon guides working on this. Entity known as Isa comes forward with this type of almost frozen breath to let you know that she's encircling your third eye and allowing for wisdom transmissions to easier to reach you with less effort, more easily. And therefore, you would see that if you began to experiment with things such as spontaneous writing, or even, let us say, more esoteric techniques such as channeling, should you prefer, or scrying, you would begin to experience great progress in these abilities, because your ability to discern the future has become enhanced and will become enhanced in the coming time. And I transmit my blessings to you in this, and know that my love reaches all of you. It is not the type of compassionate love that so often is transmitted to this vessel. I sense it. It is a love of greater allowance. It is a love that allows you to be whatever you choose to be. Know that my being never leaves you wherever you go. I always lend my conscious hand to your conscious existence. Our blessings. And Seni-san says, hello, beautiful souls. Hello, beautiful soul. And Sailesh asks, greetings, Master and Shiva. I feel that I have a very close connection with you, Parvati and Ganesh. Are you able to expand on this? Much love. Yes, much love to you too. It is true. Notice that these cultural codes that you are born into, they are never random, seen from a higher dimensional perspective. That is to say that so many of you, and especially so many of you that are gathered here today, that is the overwhelming majority of you, are souls who have had enlightenment experiences in other lifetimes. Some of them have taken place in other worlds or star systems, but you are, in a sense, well acquainted with the realization of the light. And therefore, you have chosen to come into lifetimes where it was programmed that you would, well, have some crises, but that these would lead you back into your preferred path. And therefore, many of you have also chosen the type of, let us say, religious or spiritual, mythological, cultural framework that would allow you to travel back to the realization of the oneness of the all with the greatest effortlessness and ease and with the greatest pleasure. And so the symbols that different people seek out are different, or that different spirits seek out are different. And you have a very, in that sense, bountiful energy. There is a great pouring forward of life from you. And it's something that, again, this point that often humans tend to not notice the things that are right in front of them. That is the thing that is them themselves, which is, of course, the ever present condition of being you, so to speak. That's the thing that's the hardest to notice, because that's the thing that's always there. And so you, in a sense, embody us as the sacred family. There is a great allowance in your being for this merging of the highly consciousness with the graceful and the bountiful, the the beneficial, the thing that blesses and gives benedictions, and the thing that transforms these things into wisdom. And so in our sacred constellation, my consort Parvati and our offspring Ganesha, we make up this tripartite connection of, you could say, detachment, engagement, and result. And this is a cycle that you have run for many lifetimes, and you have become quite good at producing results from things that you, let us say, detach from, that you connect to my energy in order to give birth through the feminine creation of the anew, again abiding in renewal. And from that comes forward the wise god with the elephant head. I bless you for this question, and know that you are very dear to us, and that you hold a special place within our heart too. Our blessings. And Senisen asks, hello Shiva. Once I have did a dance with you 1 year ago. I felt your consciousness. Can you tell me if you were you at that time? Thank you for beautiful dance. Love you. You know, I'll just add as a personal note, because it's very interesting that I was actually dancing, channeling Shiva by dancing before I realized I was trance channeling, but had these experiences of really merging with the energy of the god when dancing. So it's just a very, very interesting pattern, and thank you for such a beautiful full question, Senisen. So let's see what he has to say. So yes, you asked me if I can tell you if you were at that time, and I can tell you yes. It's, we know, an often reiterated point by me and a lot of other consciousnesses that, well, if you think something is happening on the spiritual plane, the answer is usually yes. There is, of course, many, many ways to then twist and turn a thing, just as when you move around an object, you see the object from 1,000 different angles, and yet you perceive it as one object. And so, yes, you perceive that our energy merged in this session, and you perceive that our energy merges in this session. And this is completely true. But know that again, this is uninhibited energy, and it is an ancient pattern of the one who dances is the one who whirls shapes from chaos continually, and then whirls these shapes in and out of existence. And so I believe in Sanskrit, the term is called Nataraja, or the motif is called Nataranya. I am not quite sure, says the channel who's translating these images, but you do know very well of the theme, of course, of my figure dancing and the representation of that. It's the cosmic dance. And so this is another of these fractalized patterns that you can think of, that I emanate into different creations, but I need some shape to be expressed into this. And that is why you express, of course, or approach my energy through the honorific of Shiva, and you might address me as Lord. This is exactly because you approach this energy by expressing it, and it can only be expressed in these shapes. But the free movement of dance is exactly the simultaneity of destruction and the arising of consciousness. And notice this signature of pure consciousness that arises within you when you dance, because it is exactly the idea of something rising that has no shape but excitement, has no shape but the containment of different shapes within the dance. And so any one of the individual poses frozen in time in this dance would not necessarily express my body, but sewn together. And again, we come to the principle of time, this idea of interval that I as consciousness bring into the world. Well, it is revealed then in the dance with all these poses that there is one excitement, one consciousness, one radiant being within you that wants to shine its life and express itself in the world. And that being can be thought of me, and that being is indeed me, but it is as much me as, or it is as much you as it is me. See, you are me, and I am you, and everything we do, it comes together like glue, and then it separates and melts like dew. It's these types of weird pairings of things that are opposite into new units, and then allowing them to again submerge themselves under the waters of consciousness and arise. You are very good at attuning with these energies, so trust yourself that when you feel you merge with something higher, you do, and it is very helpful and joyful for us to experience, as it is for you. Our gratitude and our blessings. And Nwabi Satab says, hello. Hello. What do you depict reality to be, or what you sense is breaking the fourth wall or outside of this reality? We know that this is a very deep mystical question. The idea of reality is in and of itself the sublime gem, the pearl, the holy grail of the philosophical field of ontology. That is to say, you ask yourself, what is, and from my perspective, what is reality cannot be separated without it becoming something else than reality. And so it is a good question, that what breaks the fourth wall, because you could of course construe the being as And this story has been told many times that I, in my still resting, observing all that passes, I sit and observe the passing of Maya, the veil of illusion that plays before this world, the shapes of time, the engagement of desires, all these things that keep you stuck in reality as you perceive it. And so we sit here again with the strangely dualistic concept of the mundane reality and the sublime reality, the difference between what is temporary and what is eternal, the difference between what is perceived to be real and what knows itself to be everything and therefore be without difference. And so the game of Maya is exactly, you could say, the fourth wall is installed exactly by the idea that you identify with some layers of reality and sort others out, saying, well, this is reality, this is illusion. And then, of course, the illusion, see the paradox here that illusion is perpetuated by the need to sort out the illusion from the truth. And therefore, what breaks, in a sense, the fourth wall is the light of consciousness. It's the realization that all emanates from mind, all emanates from the sublime being that undivided is expressed in my nature. And your nature is one and undivided with me. And therefore, we are all reality sublimely, but we have different ways of perceiving where we stand in this total edifice of reality. I hope this makes some sense. I know these questions are difficult to approach for the human mind as it also enjoys playing with differences. Our blessings. Yes, and yeah, I could just say, Salih said second questions. Please just shoot with second questions, guys. It looks like we'll have time to go through them. So and like it's always interesting stuff coming up. I love channeling. And yes, Devonte asks, hello, Lord Shiva. Question: can you tell me if I had any congruent lives with connection to worship with you? If so, how can may I come back into remembrances of those lives? Thank you and much love. Yes, you are having already at this point many lifetimes playing out in, of course, different very different areas of space, but in a sense coinciding in time. That is, if you perceive time as you have tended to do, as the idea more of, well, units, that we are actually borrowing this notion from the more Western cultures, because it's a very Abrahamic notion, this idea of time as something that is being filled up and moving towards an end goal. And so you could perceive time more as a function of differing consciousness again. And that is to say that there are resonance patterns playing out right now across the layer of time and space, where you or parts of your oversoul are alive in different human incarnations and having and approaching this energy of Shiva through it. So, for instance, and I'm trying to not get the channel to laugh here, so he needs to stay quiet. I'll just to tell him, because it's, we sense that there's a connection to the individual, as Sadhguru, where the two of you actually have a type of as a sort of a weird energetic you could quantum relationship, and the idea being here that you sort of play an emotional, you sort of play an emotional commentary to this man's overly mentalized energies, and that's a way that you could say that you both actually express elements of my being. There are also, we could say, um, less pretentious lifetimes where you are living out in, you are living out lifetimes close to this, but there we sense here that there, but you are quite an old soul, and what you may connect to is some of these, well, lifetimes of, yeah, we sense there is an existence here in approximately what you would think of as the late 1500s, where you lived as an, we believe the term is Agori in the Kashmir region of, yes, let's not discuss where that's placed, but it's you can find it on a map, and there you approached my being also through the radical experimentations with death and destruction. So it was very much a lifetime of the left hand path. And so we see you seated, rubbed in ashes, long dreaded with, on the graveyard, surrounded by skulls and bones. And here you approach my being in the guise of different demons that you have tamed before you in your mastery of consciousness. So there are many ways for you to approach it, but know that you have chosen the specific existence that you, Davante, find yourself in, because you are very much heart oriented. And so a lot of these, you could say, more cyber lifetimes have been for you more experiments of rigorous spiritual discipline, and those are not necessarily lessons that you aim to repeat a lot in this lifetime, but you could look into this tradition of these wise men, if you would, the Saivas of Kashmir, and see what memories would come up. And I bless you, and my deepest love to you, child. We sense that you are carrying out interesting experiments exactly where you need to be. Yes. Jim asks, I was told I had an incarnation with Swami Vivekananda, wondering if true, and if so, more about it. And please correct me if I remember if my memory deceives me, but I believe Swami Vivekananda was, the guy who spread yoga, or Raja yoga more particular, the methods of yoga, as the first one to the West, and around the turn of, well, the previous turn of the century, 18 to 1900. So yes, I'll ask him, but it was just also to illuminate anyone who might not know. So yes, often in these questions, as I engage with human consciousness, of course also being an aspect of universal consciousness, but it is wondrous why these connections necessarily mean something to humans, because you have had many, many connections. You have had many, many lifetimes, and your oversoul is having many, many lifetimes. And so, what you would want to ask yourself is, do you, at this particular moment, searching within yourself, do you resonate with this Swami? And if you do, at what level do you resonate? Were you his... Oh, and we sense some objections here, but we sense that, yes, were you his mother, his lover, his friend, or his confidant, his disciple, or his servant? What is it important for you to express by your relationship to this person? Because it is true, we sense a lifetime here that is at least coming forward, that relates to... Yes, we are getting the year... We are getting the year 1901 for some reason, and there's this woman dressed in green, and it's kind of a radiant or a shiny green color. We also sense she smokes a lot of cigarettes on... what are they called, cigarette tubes, or other cigarette holders, perhaps, these long types of, pipes where you could fasten a cigarette in. And she has gotten quite enchanted with these things, these memories of yoga, but it's sort of also something that she's into because it's fashionable for her when she goes to parties in Boston high society to be able to have these conversations, and also because they're quite provocative to some of the people that she speaks with, to have an interest in these, let us say, the hocus pocus of Eastern religion. And so this is something that you're coming closer to, and that you're looking forward to. So that you're looking forward to also working within your life. It's this sort of distant fascination to something that's actually calling you from a very sincere place that you would like to step into. So we sense this is the relevance of the information coming forward, and that is that the method of Raja Yoga, or what is the yoga of meditation, or stilling the mind, of unity with the all of my being, becoming your being. That experience is something that you want to move into, let us say, more unironically, and this is the reason that this relationship and this memory comes forward. So our deepest blessings to you, and we encourage you to inquire into the resonances that you feel, both surrounding your relationship to Vivekananda and your relationship to the answer that was just given you. Yes, and I'll just tell if anyone only has... Yes, Prit21P asks, where is India heading now with this extremely fearful environment and COVID crisis? Yes, it is a very meaningful question to pose. And where India is headed, this place that is the most dear to me on all of the planet, this precious subcontinent, it's heading more into what we might term, and I use this with in quotation marks, but the idea of its natural state, that is to say, a state of less political unity and of more local initiative. So that is that the energies of this subcontinent are so rich, so myriad in the way they express themselves, so legion in the movements that press forward and into different directions, that the unity of the subcontinent under a political or ideological framework that connects or gathers the nation is something that will begin to break down in the next 30 years. And you will see a lot of our peoples on it, and also know that, of course, you have free will. But this is the timeline and the prophecy that I am transmitting to you now. And that is to understand that you will begin to see a move towards a more, this is, we would use the term anarchic or chaotic, but it's in the lack of a better word. It's more in the sense of, well, undergrowth, things that sprout up from the natural fertility and initiative of the people and the spirit of the land, rather than it is something that's imposed from above it. And so this fear will be alleviated by people moving into a type of acceptance of circumstance and a working with circumstance. So there will also be less traveling than has hitherto been, well, been the habit of many inhabitants of the subcontinent within the next couple of years. And this will also begin to upset some balances and bring forward creation. And know that all of you are now given the choice, and now we speak not only of India but of all of the planet, to begin to truly cultivate, to find this idea of, and the metaphor of cultivation. And cultivation is something quite different than production. It's not the idea that you collect the iron ore and then you put it in um, the smelting furnace, and then you retrieve it and you bang it and then you cool it and have a finished product or a weapon or a tool or whatever it is. It's something different, because it's that dance between, well, the invested work, but it's the conditioning work, it's the cultivation, where, but because it's actually a life process that you yourself cannot control, that you begin to move into. And this is a far better way for human beings to think of creation, because it also alleviates a lot of that need for control or need for dominance of certain outcomes that just, well, reality, if you want to use that term, really doesn't allow for. And that's why it's very helpful to begin to think of you all as gardeners. So try to plant seeds wherever you can, both literally and metaphorically, and then see which one of them actually grow crops that will nourish and sustain you, and then begin moving into that sustainable energy when it presents itself to you, because you have been walking through the desert for, well, you could say for several millennia, but certainly for decades. And now you're finally approaching that oasis where things can actually grow. There are blessings to you and to all of you, our love. uh, And Jan, good to see you with us. Asks, someone saying that reincarnation, past lives, is not a thing, but that it's spirit over cloaking, and that reincarnation happened only for like 7 souls on Earth, I think. What do you say? Yes, happened only for like 7 souls. Yes. Um, yes, is essentially my answer is that these are the types of perceptions that happens when you want to fit the higher dimensions into 4D reality. because they are always caught in the game of opposites, and it's a very dynamic place. So don't get us wrong that this is not a very merited or interesting question. But yes, everything is essentially manifestations of spirit. I like to use this image too, that everything is essentially a part of my being. And so no, there are no reincarnations, because there is only this infinite moment where everything exists at once, and we are all part of that same creation, though we take up different positions in it. And so the idea of reincarnation, well, it actually implies that time would be real, for instance. And notice that time is an aspect, it's not a sublime reality. So the idea, of course, that you become born again is of course in and of itself a completely paradoxical, if not to say nonsensical idea. It's the height of what is illogical, because you can't be you and then be another person at the same time, because you is exactly defined by being that person, which are not all the other people. And that other person is in the same way defined by being a person which is not all the other people. But what is meant by this is that there are certain energetic patterns. So what you could think of is, and what is a helpful way to think of it, is that the physical body is mortal, and the mental conception of the physical body, that thing you call your ego or your identity, that is also mortal. And both those things perish when you die. But there are energetic conflicts, there are akashic patterns, there are memories in the akashic field that are carried on from lifetime to lifetime. And therefore, it is in that sense relevant to speak of that the sublime spirit, the undifferentiated spirit, as it differentiates, are having certain experiences that run from lifetime to lifetime, and that, well, as a glimpse of an eye, it has one experience. Of the blink of an eye, it has one experience as one life. It blinks, and then it sees itself again in a new vision or a new moment, but still with the same identity of the same eye that watches. And that eye is configured in the same way. These are ways to think about it, because it's so very paradoxical. And of course, if you would want these things expressed in greater poetry or greater clarity, you could take up reading the Upanishads, where such things are explored, and that would perhaps help you to think of it. But it is true that we would say the number is significantly higher than seven, but it is a very few people who wake up in their infancy, to who have the clear recollections of all their past lives. And this is essentially, well, the born Buddhas or the illuminated ones, ascended spirits who choose to come back, but but usually even these spirits will have programmed into themselves a period of amnesia, or where they do not recall themselves as being anything but the being that they are. And that's, you know, that the game of self-discovery, because also, even if you have made this realization in many lifetimes, as indeed many of you present already have, you will still have been, well, to even communicate this, that is to say, to, with charity and compassion, to be able to relate this remembrance, this connection to source to other people, you actually need to have the experience of forgetfulness yourself. Because, see, this is something that you often run into when in these channeling sessions, or people who channel other entities, that they go, and I do not mean this as a criticism, but only as a perspective that you can use, that they say, Well, you create your own reality. You can just manifest whatever you want. You just need to think more positive thoughts. You just need to keep your vibration clean and everything, because everything is in your vortex. And this is all true, but it's also neglecting the fact that this is only half part of the story, because the other half is that you are, metaphorically speaking, built from the clay of the earth, and you're built from elements of this earth, and you're built from these heavy dense energies. And the project is not really to just be, a spirit that doesn't care about matter, but it is to be a union of spirit of matter that are equally founded in both, and also to have the patience with a lot of these difficulties that arise from being incarnated and being the sublime, undifferentiated spirit incarnated into person. We hope, if it didn't give you a clear answer, that it at least made you think and turned your attention into some helpful perspectives. And you have our blessings and your love. Know that you too have, in a sense, been reincarnated here to be here now. It's Is it wise for me at some point to move to my birth country, Slovakia? I like the Netherlands too, where I lived for about 20 years now. Is my twin flame here as well? How kind of you, shedding light. Thank you, too, Jana. Yeah, the Netherlands are awesome, right? It's just what's up with with the Dutch? They're just awesome people. I would like to I would just like to note, and let's see what he says. Thank you for being here. Yes, I would point out to you that these two things are not necessarily connected. So you could say they are all in a state of, they all exist in that potential state and are infused with the energy of desire. That's not to say that desire is negative, but it is to say that it has the idea that you are lacking something that you're not. So your twin flame is right there with you. You are always complete in yourself, and sure, you can team up with different entities, and a lot of it is soul contracts, and a lot of it is very beautiful. But notice this idea that there is a depiction, and the channel is unable to find the word for this motif, but where Parvati and I are united in one being. Also know that my being is often depicted as the idea of the lingam, which is in a sense the depiction of the two fertility organs of humankind, the reproductive organs united into one. And so that is to say that, of course, being creatures of time, you are in a sense built with a energetic difference or an energetic deficit that you seek to balance out by engaging in relationships with people of the opposite gender or people of complementary energies, if you want to get into the patterns of homosexuality. But it is essentially the same idea of union or wholeness that you are seeking. And that is to say that you can actually find this union or wholeness within you. There's no necessity to find that person. And often it is one of these boons that are given to you. So using the Christian tradition, which we know is strong both in this part of the world and in this vessel we are coming through. So the idea is that if you seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and the rest shall be given unto you. So if you instead focus your heart on where do you want to be, because yes, we know that you wouldn't be posing this question of going home to Slovakia if you didn't sense that there was something there that were calling you. And we sense there is for instance, there is the mountainous or the mainland energy. There's something steady there that you might want to connect to, but you can simply do check-ins. So it would be helpful for you to go back and then feel, well, how is my resonance changing? And you will also notice if you begin to feel at odds with the energies of the Netherlands and the environment you have been staying in. So we sense that everything that I could say to you here would be a sort of imposition on your free will. And therefore I would rather like to remind you that you have a very clear compass of who you are, and where you want to be within your heart. And you are actually learning very much through the challenges that you are manifesting, and the differences that you have brought forward in your life, that, well, how do you best allow yourself to navigate within that space? And therefore we also know, as we believe, and here we are of course also using the memory of preceding questions that you have posed, that there might be a sense of discontentment with your current partnership, and therefore the longing for a more fulfilled partnership. And there we also encourage you to, well, it's a very easy advice. It's simply to take it easy, which means to remember to center in with yourself. Because once you produce an imbalance in a relationship, and so many of you experience this, and you sort of soothe this imbalance by a new relationship, that will begin to express the same energetic configurations and relationships. So you keep repeating the lesson until you have learned it. And that's why it's good to take it easy. So if you're happy where you are now, then just feel out the world quietly, and you will arrive at that question, and those answers that you seek. And our deepest love and blessings to you in this. Yes, and oh yes, a sacred synchronicity. Yeah, another question from Slovakia, and Lubarat asks, greetings. Would like to ask if there's any release from tyranny and control of government for people in Slovakia. Yes, this is an interesting question, and we are only able to read the energetics as partially. This vessel has been reducing his intake of well, lexical journalism or current affairs, or what we believe you call the news, and also partially the specifics of the political climate in Slovakia is not that well known to this vessel. And therefore the energies that we perceive is also that it is, in a sense, element of attitude that you seek. So yes, there will be the change of attitude that you seek. So yes, there will be changes, and you will experience within the next 20 years, but with a pivotal point around the years 9 to 11. Notice again this configuration of numerology, but it will be in this that you will begin to see a radical altercation, both in, we would say, social organization, the means of production, and which we know is a kind of a tinged word, expression we are scanning now, but it's the idea that that there will be a greater sense of self-ownership growing in humanity in general. And for many of you, this is yet to manifest itself, well, politically or socially, let us say, in the living units that you live in the way that you handle finances, in the work that you do in the world, and in the way that you're remunerated for it, and in the sense that there is also oppression. But essentially, the best thing you can do now is to, well, turn your attention away from this idea of tyranny or power. Of course, if someone is physically threatening to you, it is helpful to pick up a rock, or it's helpful to also be able to master your own aggressiveness, to unleash it when it is useful. This is, in a sense, the aspect of Kali that you would do well to align with, because notice also that this sense of destruction and tyranny is a part of human consciousness, and you are a manifestation and a part of human consciousness. So it won't clear out until you identify it within yourself. And the best way to identify within yourself is to still your mind from some of these perceptions that it's on the outside, and then begin to partially build what you think is helpful and might shift perspective, lifestyles, things away from that, begin to sharing positivity. Because notice that there has always been, even in the most oppressive of climates, there is usually some type of undercurrent of either satire or spirituality or religion, or things that slip, you could say, under the radar of authority and then begins to subsume it. So even in cultures where there is, for instance, a monolithic idea of a certain political ideology that needs to be followed, there will be ways of presenting this ideology, of twisting it into something that is actually oppositional within itself, and thereby altering it, altering the attitudes, altering its vibrations, because you can think of these egregores that you collect, such as ideology, that you create collectively, such as ideology, as something which also has a baseline vibration. and and that is actually something that you can begin to interact with. But know that, of course, we sympathize greatly with your plight in this, and but we also point to that it is an element of co-creation, and the less power you give to, we believe, again, it's in the Wizard of Oz, where it's pay no attention to the little man behind the curtain, because it's this idea that essentially the grand Wizard of Oz is just smoke and mirrors. He's just a, another stupid bald monkey who doesn't know what he's doing, and just tries, and then, but he's playing the trick on the other bald monkeys, that he's the one in power and they need to fear him. So that's essentially the essential baseline energy of tyranny. And the more you begin to dismount that, but also knowing that the only power people have is the power that's invested in them by your higher self and by your belief in the power they have, well, the more you begin to also take that power away from it and reclaim it. And that's essentially where you want to move to. And you have our blessings in this, and you have our love. Yes, I think. Oh no, here's another one. Um, Relation and further understand. Remnock says. Okay, it's a two-part question. And I would like to ask how much time and focus I should spend on creating my inner pyramid stargate and focusing within my own self, versus how much time and effort I should spend developing my relation and further understanding and loving with the entities which are connecting to me. They are sometimes harvesting energies from me in ways I don't want, and I don't know for sure what to do. Okay, this is an interesting, very interesting question. Thank you for it, and good to have you with us. Yes, it's a very conscientious question. It's a very loving question, And it's a question that also suggests, may we say, a great deal of advancement on the spiritual path, that you're able to discern between these different experiences and then to evaluate them. And notice that, well, yes, again, it is better to think in terms of energy than in time in this process, because this work essentially takes place without time. And of course, we realize that if you're will spend all day in traffic or at the office or cleaning your house and raising your kids, and then it's also hard. Then you also have a limited amount of time. But it's really your energy, because these things, they can come in as fast as a flash of lightning, and then be an entire energetic configuration or entire work that your higher self or your oversoul has done. And the recommendation here is that you turn your attention to the Stargate and building the inner pyramid first, because you are describing some unwanted effects with the entities. And notice that the pyramid also works as a type of filtering chamber. So not only does it transmit your Stargate energies outward and allows you for astral travel and to sending your Merkaba different places and going there, but it also allows you can build it into different sizes, scale it into different sizes, and use it as a protective shielding. So if there are energies that you feel you are leaking or giving to places where they are not, received with care and returned with love to you, then the building of this vessel will actually help you in the shielding, because know you are in a sense sublime in this process, and that the negative energies that you are, negative entities that you may feel that you're giving your energy to, that these are in a sense also learning experiences, and they might just be learning you to strengthen your Stargate. And there's also the quite, of course, that there is, if you find yourself in these astral situations, there is also the quite helpful advice to let them happen, because nothing can essentially happen to your undying soul. It's not a thing that in a sense can be changed or altered in a way where you will become imperiled in the long incarnational run, so to speak. And therefore, if we speak of, for instance, this dear one or the vessel that we're coming through, we know that when he began channeling, there was a lot of experiences where he also came upon these darker collectives, and they would sometimes consume him and then sort of move them through their astral bowel system and excrete him on the other side. And there he would sort of pick up his astral body, and then it would have undergone that sort of ascetic cleanse of also having been consumed by some of those dark energies. And know that even though you pick up your etheric body from such processes, it is still an intact, and it might even be more visible, because you are in a sense the entirety of everything. And so the darkness also extends infinitely down into the nether realms. Those are just not places that are preferred to go for so many of you. And therefore, the more you strengthen this multidimensional pyramid or the Stargate within you, the more you allow yourself to, let us say, control or flow within this process, to direct it with your excitement rather than other emotions that might be playing into it. So our blessings to you, and know that you are doing great work, and that your guides are most exhilarated that this is taking place. Buckman says, I had a beautiful and healing vision of Shiva and a giant snake come to me a couple of months ago. Can you speak on the healing energy and the snake companion? Please and thank you. Yes, this is a beautiful, very hard. Oh, it just came in as a beam. How beautiful. Yes, because this is a very archetypal vision, and that was also why it gave such a it gives off such a strong radiation, because it's a very pure vision, and it's of course the vision of the awakening Kundalini. So when you see this vision within me, and it's of me, and know often in my depictions I am in the iconography I am depicted as a seated yogi, the master of yogis, sitting with my trident surrounded by snakes. And it's of course it's the this is also why I'm often depicted as blue. So the idea that I am able to subsume the poison that was created by the churning of the cosmic sea, is that, or the Milky Sea. We are asking the channel to scan this from his knowledge of mythology, but it is the idea that the snake-like poison, the difference of the world, the thing that arises from the ground and then moves up to the head to murder and to kill, is also an illumination and allows for a purification. And in my being, in the pure being of meditation, of sitting there, subsuming the poison, ever wise, allowing for all energies and all things that transpire to be. There, the snake cannot touch you, but only become your ally and your friend. And there, the energies awaken to benefit not only you, but the world, and to be anchored into this reality. So go forward on this path and seek out my being, because you are being called by it. Our love to you. And Deb asks, greetings, Master and Lord Shiva. My question is, I plan on quitting my job and begin babysitting my 2 grandchildren in August. Is this a good move for me? And then you say, oh, and by the way, I feel silly asking such a question. Seems like there should be more pressing things I should wonder about. Much love to you. And don't feel bad, like whatever comes up, comes up. And I think one of the very beautiful things is that, like, no matter what you ask these entities, that they're very good at making it both, well, specifically useful and generally interesting and applicable to situations. So let's see what he has to say. And Heather Houston posts also a heart and blessed hands. Yes, the question, answer to your question, dear Deborah, is essentially yes. You wouldn't feel called to it if you could. You wouldn't, and if you wouldn't be asking this question if you didn't feel called to do it, and if you felt like this was something that, yes, what I'm trying to say is that what you are seeking is confirmation of the thing that you have already decided, because it was a product of your higher self or your higher calling. And I'm very happy to give that to you. And notice that if you were to postpone this, you would feel this as a type of missed opportunity. So you are actually looking forward to connecting to your grandchildren, and we realize that there will also be, well, some challenges and unexpected lessons, and a lots of blessings and joys and fun moments also arising from this. But it will be something that you want to, and you might be asking because you also sense that, well, financially, is it prudent to abandon career and job in order to take care of family? But you already know the essential answers that we're going to give you here, because it's such standard spiritual advice, but it's good to be reminded of, and that is, believe that your highest excitement and reality will support you when you are doing what's most important to you. And also, we do believe that this is so true that it's almost a cliche to humans that when you lie on your deathbed, will you regret not having spent more time at work, or will you regret not having spent more time taking care of your grandchildren when you had the opportunity to connect to them like that? And that's simply to say that there is something very meaningful in that's calling you out, and please heed that calling. And you have free will, but we sense it will be a very happy experience both for you and for them, and they will be very happy to have their grandmother so close. Grandmothers are a very important influence in the energetic fields of a life, of a young life, and it's a place where they connect with that, you could say, almost archaic or timeless vibration of humanity, that continuity of life, which is carried stronger within the female sex than within the males of your species. And that has to do with the idea that you are connected to the eternal, and somehow that love is being brought forward, and there's no denying that love that you feel for them, and therefore be happy and feel blessed exploring it. Thank you. Yes, and I am like I'm pretty I'm doing pretty well with Shiva here, so I think we can manage some second questions too. I'll just scroll up. Yes. Um, Sophia asks, if time permits, it does. Would you offer, Shiva permits, would you offer any advice what I should focus on during my working hours and days? I am often not as present as I wish to be. Yes. What you should focus on is the things that you don't want to focus on. That is to say, energetically, you you pose yourself in a situation where well, you are partially distracted, and at the same time you are focusing on the fact that you're distracted and that it bothers you. And this is expressed in the saying that what you resist persists. So if you begin to focus on what it is that's calling you away, that is, if you actually begin to daydream, and this may mean that you're going to the bathroom during the day, you may spend a minute or two out there more, just, well, actually thinking about your daydreams, or the things that seem to be distracting you, and asking yourself, why is it that I'm thinking this? And then, well, if you feel that you really need to be present, then tapping is very, very helpful. And you can even do it if you don't want to be necessarily known as the person in the office who constantly goes around tapping tapping their own forehead. But you can, with an instant tapping of your heart, for instance, call you back to this present. And you can also, with the slight tapping of your solar plexus, just allow yourself to come back. And these are some of the techniques you can use to become present in those situations where it's really needed. And you're welcome to dispense with your energy in that way, so that you also allow yourself to only expend the energy necessary for the given interaction, because many of them you can actually be, well, not necessarily be as attentive as you naturally are, and it wouldn't necessarily take anything away from that situation. And that we say to you to both, well, it means that then when your presence or your focus is really required, there will also be, in that sense, a greater resource, or, well, a willingness within you to really mobilize it. There won't be this thing within you that also protests by making you a little unfocused. So that's it, to also remind yourself that you actually hold a lot of, again, integral intuitive value even by being present. And in that sense, you don't necessarily have to live up to everything every day, because your baseline of presence is actually quite strong. That is my answer and my love to you in this. Blessings. And Kevin asks, could you go into more details into the leprechaun that is now residing in our house? In Daughters of the Moon, you mentioned the name Meta and gave good insight into this being. Clovers have now begun to sprout out of our cactus soil, and I have given him her buckwheat growths as an offering. So I'm sure she is there and active. Any further guidance would be great. Yes, it's a very beautiful question, and there was this there because it is very much active, and you are progressing as you want to. And now what you can do when you put forward this buckwheat thing is you can actually put out a type of object, or you could even, if you want to, arrange one of your cactus or plants, but it's something that you might feel needs a type of blessing or healing. And you could, for instance, also do it with if you are arranging a slight altar using this potpourri, this scented flower water, you could put that out there and ask it to bless it. And it's so beautiful when these names arises, because we believe that the name the channel gave was actually was using a he was using a Scandinavian word that was vette, which is spelled a V, and then it's, well, it's either an A with an umlaut in Swedish, or it's the vowel known as E. So that's an A and an E, and then a T and a T and an E. So V and an A and an E and a T and a T and an E. So this is the name for the type of spirit. But Meta is not a bad name to give it, and it's very helpful that you have given it this name, because it speaks to the natural spirit of your house. And so if you were actually to address small prayers as you put forward these things, or ask it to bless something, or simply ask it to bless your house and maybe your family too, it's always a good thing. If the house are parts of the family, and the family are parts of the house, so to speak, that would be very helpful, because it really wants to protect. It's been given a home, and it's very beautiful, because there are a lot of these wayward natural spirits on the planet in this time. And the more of you will allow your houses to be organic in that way. And we also know that dear Kevin, the person asking, is good at growing plants in his home, and this is one of the reasons that it has attracted this natural spirit, and that it is being blessed by it. So ask for its blessings. And you could also, well, ask it to help your dogs. So help your dogs cleanse the energy and protect the energy of the perimeter. And it will also, well, we sense help the health of your dogs, should you want to get its assistance in that. So our blessings to you in this, our love. Nuabia Satop asks, what would cause a being from the stars to become a starseed? I think this is actually perhaps a better question for one of the galactic races, but it's a really good question. So can we? There will be I think it will be the Arcturians next Tuesday, I believe, and so if you would save it for then. And you can just post it. If you can't make it, you can post it in the chat on beforehand, and it'll get answered. It's a really good question, but let's do the star seeds then. I think yes. Oh, there was. I think. Oh yes, there was a second question from Sailesh up here. Greeting again to Master Shiva. A second question, if time permits. How do you see the progress of a business venture that I am contemplating with my nephew Rishan and friend of mine, Daniel? You're loved. Yes, we sense that you are in a time in your life where you are in a very good place to undertake these things. So it's interesting because we're just using the encyclopedic knowledge of the channel here, but he was randomly watching an interview with a professor yesterday, speaking about how the idea that entrepreneurs are, there's a mythology in the culture about entrepreneurs being something that's good to go into in your early 20s, but actually the data shows that it's far better when when you reached your mid 40s, for instance, because you have a lot of both life experience and a calmer energy and resources to draw on a network, and there are all these factors that are feeding in, and so you are simply in a place in your life where you have cleared out a lot of the, you could say, personal impediments that would, speaking in the manner of law of attraction, would begin to model up this project. And therefore we sense it's like the trunk of Ganesh is waving over it, and were you to offer him some kind of trinket or offering and ask him for him blessings in this, that would be an even greater boon to the business. But we do sense that this is something that wants to come out into the world, and that you're all aligned with this, the three of you. So go ahead, it will serve you, and it will serve the world as it serves you. Our blessings in this endeavor. Prosperity is the greeting that we bring from Ganesh. And yes, there is. Yana asks, I would like advice for the stomach upset, how to heal it. It must be psychological, of course. Any suggestions so it would flow without cramping? Thank you very much. Yes, yes. Well, notice that the stomach upset is in a sense a manifestation of the fear that's present in human life, and that's not to single you out, because we know that well, many present here have also been dealing with energies in the stomach, and it's very natural, because so much fear has come up to be processed and seen and realized in by so many individuals in this time period, that you would feel there is this type of upset. And so the best thing you can do is to show yourself kindness with this. So allow yourself to be pot-bellied. That is, stop tucking your stomach in. Allow yourself to have natural breathing. That is a breathing pattern that some people suffer from, including this body that we are coming through, is the tendency for paradoxal breathing. So it's the idea that it is, well, on your inhales you sort of suck your gut in, and what is it? Yes, it's the idea. Yes, exactly. That it's instead of expanding your abdomen on your inhales, you sort of expand your chest and suck in your stomach, and then on your exhales you relax it down. And that's essentially a very nervous pattern of breathing that will bring a lot of energy up to the mental fields, but it will also be helpful. So the more you can breathe, the more you can ground, the better. And then nuts and seeds, eating these types of fruits and heavy, somewhat fatty fruits and vegetables. And we could mention something as avocado, eggplants, grapes, the like would be things that would be helpful to you in allowing this sensor to pass. And then also just accept that a lot of this is natural, and it would be very weird to not undergo so many changes as you are in your present life and not feel this as physical upsets and confrontations in some ways. So our blessings to you, and also we bless your health. Know that you are essentially well. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with your stomach. And Prit21P asks, how do a human being can feel the presence of you, Lord Shiva? And second part, are you with me? How do I understand that you are guiding me on the right path? Yes, it's you essentially search for me within. My presence is felt as a sense of growing illumination. That is, if you feel that your human language can be difficult to describe, but it is almost the realm of your ideas. So your mental emotional constructs, if you feel them altering, if you feel you gain access to something that has a higher resonance with you, that seems more natural in its explanatory frequency, that seems like it is guiding you, it is a sign that you are being guided. And the more that you place yourself in seated positions, of meditative positions, and allow yourself to sit there erect but relaxed, the more you will be able to feel this influx of energy. And the greater a tingling sensation you sense in different centers centered around your spine, the more you will know that this is my energy flowing into your being. And so it is always good, as we also brought forward to another individual, to try to tap your heart and tap your forehead when you are in doubt. And this will, by movement, soothe the movements of the mind and actually bring you into stillness. And that stillness is my nature. So the more that you feel stillness growing within you, the more you feel the sense of, let us call it inspiration or understanding, the more you feel the sense of immersion or acceptance, the more you are in connection with me. And I am guiding you. I am certainly guiding you. And should you seek me out, I will offer you even greater assistance. And should you ask me questions in one of these states or seated like this, I am happy to answer them and seek your guidance. But trust that you are receiving the right answers when you receive them, because often they are only given once, and the second and third answers, with what you humans call second and even third guessing, are blessings to you. Know that I protect you. Yes. Thanks, guys. I think. Oh, Heather has a last one here. So let's try to do that one. Greetings, Master Shiva. Any message or advice for me regarding my career path? Yes, greetings to you. Well, our advice for you is quite general. It is that know that this word career, it actually means road, or it actually means a type of pathway. And that's the way to think of it, that know that you are on your path no matter where you go, but you can get there sooner or later. And your career is actually, even though it manifests in the outside world and it seems to present outside rewards, it is actually something that you are following back to yourself. And notice that you are a person who's more engaged in, let us say, the immaterial rewards, or that you're looking more to feel gratified spiritually and emotionally than you are financially, and in the accumulation of social status, or what is sometimes known as respect, though this is of course a shallow definition of the term. So that is our general advice. It is that know your priorities and know that what you're seeking is actually a return to yourself, and this return is unavoidable. But the more that you unify your career with that, the more you will, the greater sense of gratification or excitement you will also feel. Our blessings to you in this. Yes, and I think we made all of them, guys. I'm pretty sure we made all of it, and it was fascinating channeling a deity. Or a follow up afterwards. Let's get him to do some final blessings. Yes, getting ahead of himself as he is becoming a little tired, this vessel. I would like to thank you that, and also remind everyone here that your your openness to this energy, it reveals the great level of consciousness to which you have ascended, and it points to the greater levels of consciousness to which you are integrating. So I am seated as a part of your pure being, though much as you are a part of me, I am only a part of you, and the totality of existence is incorporated within your undying infinite soul as the whole that has so many different rooms and places to explore that you might get lost in it and think it's only a part, but you are the whole. And I would like to transmit to you a song or an energy vibration this day before I leave you. We are one in love. Wonderful, guys. What a beautiful session, and it was fun doing it with the deity. Very, very beautiful, and thank you for the love and your beautiful questions and everything, guys. As I was saying, I believe the next one will be, and I'm trying to make sure that I plan them so that they're planned in advance, even though my logistics are often just a little different to predict it. But I believe the next one will be the 27th, which I believe is also a full moon. And I was thinking about doing it with the IL, but I think it will be the Arcturians this time. And so starseed questions, whatever you have, just, Amen Umlam, he'll take good care of us as he used to. And with that, if it's an early Monday where you are, I wish you a happy week and a happy day. And if you're going to bed, then may you sleep tight. So thank you for being here, guys, and see you another time.